Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Georgia! Woo! Thank you, Georgia. I have an announcement, Georgia. On January 6th, I will object to the Electoral College vote. That's right. Thank you. We're going to get this done.
She's so robot. Georgia! Hello, Georgia. On January 6th, Georgia, I'm going to object, Georgia, to the Electoral College, Georgia. That's right, Georgia. Woo!
She got a CPU upgrade. She got a new program package. She looks totally redone. She looks great.
Oh, no, don't start. You cannot possibly be. She looked like she was at a Halloween party. She was dressed as a non-billionaire with the stupid trucker cap, you know, with the Trump cap and the red down jacket to match. I mean, you know, she's like Daisy May. She's so robotic. She just keeps repeating whatever talking point goes in one ear. She just comes out of her. But you can't even call her a robot. It's an insult to robots. C-3PO had more personality than she does. R2-D2 did not use words. Has more personality than the Kelly Loeffler. And then David Perdue, he was on Fox News, and they asked him about this. I swear to God, this was unbelievable to me that they actually asked him, because there is so much information about David Perdue and outsourcing of American jobs and the importation of shoes, Reebok and clothing lines and people that he, you know, Gitano, I told you about this company yesterday, right? And the two top guys at Gitano, they had to plead guilty to violating China trade rules, okay? They pled guilty to get, and the company goes bankrupt, and then Sarah Lee says, hey, we're doing clothing lines, David, come over here, because that company, you know, they had to plead guilty, and you could violate the law for us. I mean, it's so sick. So finally, last night, Brett Baer asked Perdue about this Chinese guy. Oh no, it's John Ossoff. He's all messed up with the China. Are you freaking kidding me? John Ossoff, just so you know, is a journalist. He's a journalist by trade. David Perdue, it was made in China, and now the dollar stores. Okay, that's his new you know, thing, and everything. Have you ever gone into a dollar store? Anybody? I think everybody has. It's all imported Chinese stuff. He's made in China, this guy.
You know, you've spent some time charging that your opponent is tied to China. When asked about that directly, he explains it briefly and then turns the China question to you. Here's what he told Peter Doocy.
These investigations have been aired by dozens of television channels in dozens of countries all over the world. And one of those television channels was in Hong Kong. Senator David Perdue bragged under oath about how he spent most of his career outsourcing American jobs to China. He operated factories in Shenzhen province in China in cooperation with the Chinese Communist Party, and he should explain that on the record.
Your chance, Senator.
We did exactly that in 2014, and we were elected by 8 points. We did it again in this election. We were elected by 2. We just missed this runoff by a few thousand votes. This accusation is made by a young man that's never created one job in his life. I've created tens of thousands of American jobs in my career.
No, you've created thousands and tens of thousands of jobs in Shenzhen province in China. You have outsourced American jobs. Your entire career is outsourcing American jobs. Reebok he worked for. He worked for Gitano. He worked for Sarah Lee's clothing lines. He works for the dollar store, importing all this crap from China. This is amazing. I mean, it's like an alternate universe, man. It has absolutely nothing to do with reality. She's dressed up at this thing like a trucker, and he's over there saying that John Ossoff, as a journalist, was interviewed on a television program that once aired in Hong Kong. Therefore, he's all communist, Chinese. And obviously, David Perdue, his entire fortune was made in China. I mean, it's unbelievable. And yet, if you look at these delusional, these are the Georgia voters, okay? This is what we're up against. These are them, everybody. These are real Trump supporters.
Are Trump and his supporters just sore losers?
No, we haven't lost.
What?
So he'll be president for 2 more weeks?
No, he will be president till 2024.
You know, obviously Trump is saying that the election was stolen from him here in Georgia. Doesn't trust the Republican election officials here. Does that cause a problem or an issue for trust in this week's Senate election?
Yes, I think it has for several people.
Yeah.
People are not have been demoralized and have actually told me that they do not want to vote because they feel like their vote isn't going to count.
And what do you say to people when they say?
I tell them, well, if the Democrats are going to steal the election, we're not going to. We're going to do the right thing and we're going to vote.
Will you accept Joe Biden as president?
No, he'll never be my president.
Okay. But you accept that he's going to be inaugurated?
No, I don't.
I mean, how could that change at this point?
Well, it could be a civil war. You never know.
What?
You don't actually want a civil war, do you?
I don't. Show us the voting machines. Show us the ballots. Show us that this was a fair election, or we'll never accept another vote again. Ever.
Okay. There have been 61 court cases. Okay, 61. And Donald Trump has lost all of them. And he just lost the Georgia case today, too. So you remember when he was on the shakedown phone call, the extortion phone call, and he said, you know, and the reason why he had called 18 times, he'd called the Secretary of State of Georgia. We don't know who else he called. We have no earthly idea who else he called, but you could best believe he's been badgering Republican governors and Republican secretaries of state. You know he's making calls all over the freaking place, okay? Let's just hope he's not calling the military. That's all I can continue to say. I do know tomorrow the National Guard has been called out already in Washington, D.C. And I do know already that the Sergeant at Arms in the House of Representatives has sent a memo out telling the members of Congress, especially people of color, okay, not to be on the street tomorrow, not to get to the House of Representatives as early as they possibly can. Now, they have a 1 o'clock, start time tomorrow afternoon. But the Sergeant at Arms told that members of the House, you need to come 9 o'clock in the morning and stay on campus all day. Do not park on the street. Use underground, there's underground tunnels because it's cold there, right? And so, but they haven't been using the underground because COVID. So they've been, walking the street. The Sergeant at Arms told the members of the House, don't walk the street. Take the tunnel tomorrow. We're expecting very, very large crowds. The D.C. mayor and the acting police chief has said to every Washingtonian, stay away from Freedom Plaza. D.C. is not a state. So the Secretary of the Army, Ryan McCarthy, he's in charge of the D.C. National Guard, and the D.C. National Guard has been called out for tomorrow. I will put this caveat out for you. They will be unarmed. The Guard members will not be armed, and they will not be dressed up like, robots, like ninjas. They will not be wearing body armor. And they said that anybody at all that brings a gun within 1,000 feet of the protest will be arrested, okay? But these people are literally saying maybe it's a civil war, maybe that's what it takes, maybe that because he's going to be president another 4 years.
Clear.
RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.